from one moment to another. Jinwoo manages to wake up and realizes that he is in the hospital. He notices that his lost leg has returned and there is no trace of the wounds he suffered. At that moment, two individuals appear. Jin Chul, the head of the Hunter Association's surveillance team, and his partner, Kang Tae-sik. They inform Jinwoo that he has been unconscious for 3 days. Jinwoo asks about Yi and Sun, and Jin Chul tells him that they are fine, but Jin Chul lost an arm and may choose to retire. Yi is undergoing treatment for severe psychological shock. It is unclear if she will be able to continue working as a hunter. Only 6 people returned alive from the AA dungeon. Although the work of a hunter is always dangerous, incidents like this rarely occur. When they received the survivors' reports, Jinwoo was found alone with no trace of the temple or statues, which is hard to believe. If there were any inconsistencies in the survivors' statements or if they hadn't found the corpses, they would suspect Jinwoo. They ask Jinwoo if he has experienced a second awakening, which surprises him. He remembers that a hunter's ability is established at the moment of awakening and does not change throughout their life. However, very few hunters can experience a second awakening, surpassing their limits and potentially becoming rank A or S hunters. They show him a magic power detector, and Jinwoo eagerly agrees to take the test. Jin Chul believes that if what the hunters say is true and there were magical beasts that easily killed many people, no low-ranking hunter would have survived. The fact that those magical beasts disappeared without a trace suggests that Jinwoo may have undergone a second awakening. Checking the machine's data, they see that Jinwoo still has a power level of 10, so they apologize for their confusion. After leaving the room, they comment that even a rank E hunter would have at least 70 power level, so Jinwoo was essentially an ordinary civilian. Jin Chul knows that the dungeon has disappeared and he can no longer investigate. Jinwoo wonders why they weren't interested in what he was seeing and thinks that maybe only he can see it. He realizes that he cannot touch the pop-up screen and suddenly his sister, Gina, enters the room, worried about him. She suggests that he quit being a hunter and start working so he won't get hurt anymore. Jinwoo apologizes but changes the subject, asking her if she can see what's in front of him. When she says she can't, he asks her to forget about it. He then asks Gina to imagine having an unread message from a game and asks her how she would read it. Gina suggests opening the message tray, and when Jinwoo repeats it confused, the system he sees opens. The system informs him that he has become a player and has a daily mission called Strength Training begins here. Jinwoo remembers hearing the term player before and analyzes what he sees. When he realizes that his sister is busy, he asks her to leave. As she leaves, she greets her friend Sanji, who was waiting for her. Jinwoo starts reading all the notifications from the system. He learns that not fulfilling the system's tasks can result in punishment and that there are rewards. Although he doesn't have anything yet, he confirms the daily missions, which require him to do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and run 10 kilometers. Not completing them within the time limit can result in punishment. Jinwoo says he doesn't have time for such jokes and is skeptical, stating that he is in the hospital and doesn't have the energy for these things. We then see Jin Chul talking to President Go, informing him that there were no signs of a second awakening in Jinwoo. Go comments that luckily there was no dungeon breach, but there are many unexplained things in this incident that don't match any previous cases. After understanding the situation, Go decides to consider it an exceptional case and will request registration and reinvestigation. We now switch to Cho Young-in, who asks Cha Hae-in to be an instructor in the upcoming Rank B raid, explaining that it will serve as practical training for the newcomers. Cha Hae-in expresses doubt about it. Good teacher, but Choi clarifies to him that it is enough for her to fight as always since they will learn by observing her. She also tells him that the Hunters Guild is among the top 5 in the country, but internally it falls short. It is impossible to increase individual rank, but the experience can be enriched for when the time comes. They also show us that a portal opens out of nowhere on the streets of the city, and they create a perimeter to keep people away from that area. By night, the system notifies Jinwoo that he has failed the daily mission and that he will receive punishment, although he doesn't even realize it because he was asleep. Suddenly Jinwoo begins to feel a tremor and is transported to another place. wondering if he is dreaming since a moment ago he was in the hospital. It is then that he realizes that a monster is behind him, and it is not a small monster precisely. The system now indicates that he has to survive for 4 hours, while time is running out. Jingu has no choice but to flee quickly from that giant beast. At the same time, the nurses realize that he is not in his room, so he is not crazy. They teleported him. 2 hours have passed in that place, and just as time is about to run out, the nurses were about to check his room to see if he is still there. They imply that time is different in that world and in reality. Jingu manages to save himself by being teleported seconds before they enter the room, and the system notifies him that he has received rewards for completing the survival mission and the punishment. The next day, he prepares by putting on training clothes and goes out to fulfill that daily mission. He talks to his sister about how everything is going well with his recovery. Gina is happy about that and tells him that he will have to treat her to something for worrying her so much. Now we see Yua talking on the phone with a hunter he knows who asks her to go on a raid. He explains that it is the rank B portal from last week and that no guild can go, but he won't force her to do it because he knows what she is going through. He also gives her the good news that Jinwoo has already awakened, which makes her even happier. Later, she visits him at the hospital to bring him a gift. In the hallway, she overhears the nurses talking, who comment that the patient is running again and that he does it every day since he woke up. Yogi confirms that it is Jinwoo and also hears from the nurses that apparently he wants to gain a lot of muscle but doesn't take care of himself. After that, she shows us that she is very happy about that and decides to leave. Jingu talks about how today marks 4 days since he woke up and now he knows several things. First, what he sees is not an illusion. If he completes the daily missions, he receives 3 rewards, one of them being total recovery, which removes his fatigue. Then come the attribute points where he can assign points to whatever he wants, choosing to put them in strength as always. By increasing his attributes, he becomes stronger and feels like he has more muscle. There are also inventory skills, so he is witnessing a rather strange world that seems like a video game, although he says the last comment quietly, making people around him look at him strangely, because he is the only one who can see those pop-up windows from the system. The last reward is a random loot box, and when he opens it that day, he receives a key. This surprises him because until now, they only gave him pens or band-aids. Upon closer inspection, the system explains that this key is for teleporting to an instance dungeon and also indicates where it can be used. Jingu doesn't know what an instance dungeon is, but he assumes it is also for strengthening. In the news, they talk about the reports of the portals of the day where portals are emerging in different areas, but the guilds are taking care of each one, and one of those rank B portals has a raid prepared that will start soon. Later on, he visits his mom at the hospital, and flashbacks of what happened 4 years ago are shown. At that time, Jingu was alarmed to see his mother unconscious and not opening her eyes. Once they take her to the hospital, they explain that it is the last dream, a disease that emerged at the same time as the portals and affects 1 in every tens of thousands. Some theories say that it is caused by prolonged contact with mana, but currently, they can only try to prolong their lives. Later, Jingu becomes somewhat of a sensation while working, and when he goes to the Hunter Association headquarters, he is informed that he is qualified to become a hunter. He gives the good news to his sister, hoping that with that, he can pay for their mother's treatment. She is not entirely in agreement, as she is aware that it is quite dangerous, but she has no choice but to accept her older brother's decision. It is also shown that she is currently training her body hard to compensate for the difficulties she faced in the past. Regarding discrimination for being a rank E, after increasing his strength attribute, the day comes when he visits the place where he can use that key he obtained earlier, being prepared and aware that if it is very dangerous, he must flee without hesitation. When he takes out the key, the slot in the air also appears to insert it, and when he does, it creates a special door. Upon entering, he suddenly sees that the entrance also closes, realizing that he can no longer leave. Although he observes that a woman passes by, on his side, he goes through the portal as if nothing. Understanding that he is in a different dimension and that the instance dungeons are not normal dungeons but they must be similar to the red portals, the system tells him that he cannot leave the dungeon, but he has to defeat the boss or use a teleportation stone. Although Jingu doesn't know what that is, he also thinks that this is crazy, wondering if he will really face a boss without a group. But he understands that he has to do it, so he decides to continue. As he advances down the hallway, 3 goblins suddenly appear out of nowhere, reminding him of when he was stabbed by one of them. With no other option, he starts dodging their attacks, blocking them with the help of his dagger as he fights. He shows some difficulties, but after gathering courage, he manages to defeat one of them and continues with the others, all without taking any damage. Due to that, he recognizes that he is stronger than before. Suddenly, a monster breaks through the wall next to him and charges towards him quickly. Jinwoo tries to block it with his dagger, but this wolf or whatever it is easily breaks it with its iron jaw, leaving him unarmed. As he observes it, he understands that it is much stronger than the goblins before. However, at that moment, his legs start trembling, unable to react. Wondering why, thinking it might be fear, he thought he wasn't traumatized, but seeing the wolf attack, he narrowly dodges it by leaning his body to the side, receiving a minor wound on his face. There, he realizes that there is no healer here and that if he gets injured, he's done for. The wolf howls and lunges at Jingu again, leaping to show its hairy claws and that big jaw. Being in a life or death situation,